about $1 every day. Um, I don't think they don't do that. Yeah, it's from lemon juice. It's from like I used to do that like that. Anymore. You know, scanning easier. Sorry. Used to have what's it? Including other community members and some of the lived in places. The nearby, you might have been. So, well, hard. Just little odds and ends. Used to do go around to Harrisburg, doing the list in the hallway for people running spiders, which things once a week. Take that list. Sure. Well, you know, we go to Harrisburg and they shot there. It's like the whole day there. But they most of the time I just looking at it was a full time job. It's all this. Daily business, doing for travel, vans, fill up their things, maybe buy brand of different businesses, bag, keep track, different states, you know, with a lot of work, keep it in. Um, a little daily service here. Then in 1978, which was, I think it was late or something, we had our first profit truck. It wasn't anything like this. The first one was just a little toy wagon, a little tall giant. These like the kids and the buddies there from the there. Just all that. And usually in where to run the marathon festivals. So rare. Results of playing out in Saturday. Appreciate what was here since like it was this probably this really lawyer. Was willing to see very well. He actually spent here for some time even after he left, but eventually it passed. Small. After being the church was its own law. Well, we were living on your other hands.
Just real quick, 'cause, one thing we forgot about the Yogi Bar business, there was a letter, don't know who looked into it. Used to be in his office when he was treasurer here. There was a baseball player, Yogi Berra, and he also had candy bars. They got a cease and desist letter. Anyway, and then somehow there was a cease and desist letter from one of those. The name was too simple.
Yeah, the yogi bars, you know, they said it's not too much there.
Whatever.
So the letter
Disappeared somehow after he left office. No, they just
No, they-
ignored it. They ignored it. I just have a few show and tell. We can pass some brewers with the oxen. When I was learning how to use the oxen. Just so you know, the oxen used to go to the New York Raffiatras and lead the parades. We went to New York. We went to Baltimore. When I was here, it was Buck and Lim. DC, thank you. And we used to booth and we'd sell thousands of dollars T-shirts, literally, big, you know, and we'd go with mass T-shirts. And after the parade, the books would stand, you know, in a New York store, used to come out and score with their clothes watered down and keep it cool because eyes. It was so much things we didn't have this. We had a few different ones, but one that sold most was when we had T-shirt drawn the cow, the milking cow, the shaka. We had a hand-done drawing of her on a T-shirt. Or just said the cow. We used to get them done. Really nice T-shirt. Beautiful prices on really T-shirts. You know, blue, different colors. You know, we'd sell, you know. We went to, without the cows, we went to like trying to set up cow protection. You know, we went to different places. It was so much fun. And then English came, and that's when we brought Will Hodgkin. And that's when some of those photos on the field. And it's yeah, they put the name on the back. There are things on the back. They are ones that I have to put my name on them. So, and then also the cows used to. There's one there with the cart rough theater here. That's also, you'll see there's a code. Who's into black and white? That's black and white. Rough theater here. In front of these.
This is like to bring it back to the other. But
Yeah. Yeah, that was Edifice. That was and also they used to run it out like at Guna Puja. Mother used to pull them down to the barn for Guna Puja. The cart for run down or a small one used to pull them down, not a rough cart, but just a small cart for used to pull them down to the barn, take them off, bring them in the barn to the cows, do the puja, back in the cart, back here. So that's just some of the things. So
Anyone have any questions?
yeah, since you bring it out,
Um, yes.
maintaining those
Yeah. Mm. The result is strong. Especially, this year. Yeah.
given that that's business problem.
Yeah. They really,
Yeah.
just kind of, yeah, it's just, beautiful.
I think a lot of people started with
Yeah. It's sort of things to maintain this. Yeah. Right. Well, when you're still as well as things, also you
You still have those.
no,
can tell you what he told me on the side sometime. It's okay.
Whenever I'm trying to buy the things, it looks and you need it for the question. If someone asks a question, you say what they're asking since they don't have a mic.
like in motivation I was testing when I was living here, like what the version of like choice posts and house art that the trainees. Yeah, so there were not that many dormitories. Maybe half a dozen to a dozen. Let's say like it's trainees or mostly household arts. Good kids. Yeah. We set up here. I think it's one of the buildings over there was the schoolhouse. The prison building. They locked it down. And John, he's still bring out in it. It used to be the last year was it's chair. But he left. They're locked in. It's actually that's cool. Any other questions? Should I talk about that?
Yes. You say one more. For like 18.
Yeah, well, it went up in two, but it was closer to 100 devotees. But the performance, so 30, 40 or so. It's like retiring now. Like, it's Lance.
Now I would like to ask Prashant Prabhu to speak to us about Balabhadra's first-hand experience from 1981.
Venu
Yeah.
Prabhu, please set
Naraka
up the.
Prabhu, can you just a second? Can you hear like this better if I'm closer to the computer?
I can hear you well enough, but without the lapel mic, it's impossible to understand what the speakers are saying.
I'm not sure if I can set it up because we're using the camera external, but I'll try using the second port. If it does any difference, let me know.
And if it doesn't work, Venu, set up the laptop like we normally do for the Bhagavatam class. Don't use the camera.
I don't know what the camera need is for anyway. Is this better, Thakur? Just a minute. Can you hear? Can you hear through this mic? Anybody, please?
Yeah, it seems to be. Speak a little more. It seems to be a little.
Direct? I'm not fine right now.
No, now it's breaking up again.
It was?
It seems like when you get closer to it, then if the person is far away from it, it won't work.
The thing is that even when we use laptop very close, unless you use this target, we don't hear anything. So maybe others do, but we can use the camera. But I think Rishan Sur told me that the microphone is in the camera. I wish he could be.
Because when we surveyed from a glass, when we had the house, the two of this low, and the ones, so. So,
Oh, wherever sound, the mic is captured within the camera. Either that sound, wherever the camera is has to be closer to right on the sounds. You can.
Okay. Speaking of teachers, one or teacher. Cal. We hear from the founders. So this was written by Oliver, who lived here with his wife, Chinese, their son Melanie, and they got her daughter. So he says, in 1981, our family wrote Nagari farm meeting because he was admitting the farm's charity program called Adopt Travel, which brings funds to help cows. They did the farming and earning a living cows, which led or Gita became the first ISKCON farm in North America to stop breeding commercial dairy. Leaders of Gita realized that if you're not killing your unproductive cows, they all lost. As commercial dairy does, you lose your economics. Raising crops came from not on the farm was necessary. My wife and I ran the adult cow program in 1988 to 1990. At that time, we were all in charge of the cultural department of the farm. During the celebration of Govardhan Puja in 1989, Luisa Chandra visited us and had an idea we wanted to discuss each North American ISKCON farm cow protection program at the time. There was adopt a cow, seed a cow, mother cow, each dealing with a specific herd of cows. Luisa Chandra's idea was to develop a cow protection program that was universal in application, global, not regional. We talked for many hours. We came up with a name, International Society of Cow Protection, which is my teacher. And it's such a list of goals that has evolved into the present day goals of this cow. So we parted company after the festival. He said, "Take it over, and if you want to go ahead and discount, go ahead." He's an idea man, consultant type, not a cowman or farmer. But we decided to organize a scout as a nonprofit charitable operation. We equalized everything in March of 1990. So the scout became a separate entity from its scout. In the spring of 1990, we started traveling all the North American rock hockey festivals, Earth Days, and other programs. We took the two oxen of the rock Gotcha parades. We had the oxen available, had touch, photograph festival sites. The festival visitors were utterly in awe of the beauty and size of the oxen. Their training is for approximately 4 summers, receiving positive press coverage throughout the USA. In the meantime, we acquired some treaties in North Carolina, which is family farm. That's all that let's see, probably would have been 1990, part of one of their North American tours. They came to Ojai, California. That's true. So we had the building here. What do you want to try? Freestanding. Immediately adjacent, about an 8-acre vacant lot. It's large. Boulevard. It's full of the cows and a place for them to stay. And so you pull the bus onto that property and the oxen. And we were on basically the main road of town. So whenever people were coming into town, we were right at the beginning of town, and they would see these animals out there, and they would just stop right in the middle of the road. This was the main road, it was Route 150, and so just stop. And then they pull over the side of the road and get out and come over and look at the oxen. And as he says here, they were just in awe. So it was quite an amazing experience for everyone. So then they became a kind of local celebrity for a short period of time, and there was the annual county fair. This was summertime, so there was the annual county fair, which was just 10 miles away, and so they arranged to have a stall at the county fair, and they brought their oxen, and they were, of course, there with other
cows and people that kept other sorts of domestic farm animals. And so, of course, they were preaching cow protection and explaining to people that, unlike, their neighbors, they never killed the cows and they never killed their oxen. And so they immediately became pariahs and were asked to leave the fair, which they did. But at the same time, they got really nice press coverage because of that very action. So that was kind of ironic for that to happen. So one other story I wanted to read to you, which I think is very sweet. Another story from an early Gita Nagari resident, Hare Krishna Devi Dasi. This is what she has to say about her, at least one short vignette. When I milked the cows at Gita Nagari, I had to leave for the barn halfway through the morning class, long before breakfast. After milking, I would clean up the barn. It was wonderful work, more physically demanding than anything I had ever done in my life, but it was great. Then I would go into the temple and pay obeisances to the sweet and peaceful deities of Sri Sri Radha Damodar. Krishna would be leaning on his stick, playing his flute. Sometimes he carried a buffalo horn to call the cows, and sometimes he carried a rope to tie their legs. I began to understand that these items were not merely decorations. They were things Krishna uses to care for the cows. Cows need music to be pacified. Sometimes they kick when you milk them. So you have to be prepared. You have to call them in to milk them. You need a good stick for herding them. By taking care of the cows, I had obtained what was for me an intimate view of the Lord. So I'll pass these around because there's photos of these two devotees I probably would like to see. Any questions? Comments? Yes.
When Mother was there, did he have the little guys or did he have? I just know whenever we did stuff, sometimes we had the babies.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. 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 The first year they were the large oxen. The second year they came, it was the little guys. Yeah. Okay.
All right. Thank you very much for showing such proof. Okay, next we would like to invite Shamagoparupa Devidasi as she came here in 1992. Actually, 1979 was the first visit, and then moved, sorry, 78, and then she moved in here in 1992.
Please set that because I don't know where to put it. Hare Krishna, very nervous. With a hard time remembering chronological order and exact dates. The more I thought about it, I realized the first time I came was 78 because I was betrothed to Tarka in 79 and moved to Boston. So in 78, after Srila Prabhupada had left the planet and the zonal gurus were announced, Satyam Maharaj came to meet his prospective disciples. There was 3 of us. Ravinda Swarup's daughter, who was about 13, and Lalita Rita and myself. And we came to Gita Nagari to see Satyam Maharaj. And my first impression of Gita Nagari, everybody knows how gorgeous it is. You come in, the tree bower covers the driveway, and it opens up, and then you see these beautiful pastures surrounded by ridges, and it's just this like mystical Shangri-La coming into Gita Nagari. And we came in, and there were so many trees. You went down to the tree line to go to the temple, and there were so many trees you couldn't see through to the building. You had no idea where the temple was. You're just driving on this road through the trees, and then suddenly there it is this yellow building. And we came in the mud room, took our shoes off in the coat room, had two racks, a short one for children and a taller one for the adults. And in the back of there was two doors and sinks on the end. And in the back was Srila Prabhupada's Vyasa sign. And the temple room was packed. And Satsrit Maharaj was seated about halfway between Srila Prabhupada and the deities on the side. And there was Radha Damodar. There was this darkened room, and it was just golden glowing. And we got up to the front to see Radha Damodar. And their altar was not like knee height like it is here. It was much closer to the ground. And of course, then there was steps and the Shringasan. But altogether, Radha Damodar were much closer and lower and more face to face. And you just got a really good darshan. And it was breathtaking. And Radha Damodar stole my heart. So that was at 78, and Satsrit Maharaj remembered me from when he met me as a prospective disciple, and he threw his garlands to me. Then I went back with the Sankirtan devotees. We were driving down the Susquehanna River, and the driver said, "See that mountain over there? Srila Prabhupada said it used to have wings." And we were all looking at this mound of a mountain across the Susquehanna. That mountain had wings. We have a winged mountain in the area. So anyway, then okay. I came back again. I got really sick on Sankirtan in 78. I got bronchitis from being outside in book distribution. And Mother Kalini was going to take care of me. So I was just in a guest room upstairs near her room, and she was bringing me this wonderful vegetable soup from the Gita Nagari organic produce, and she was taking care of me. As soon as I got a little better, I started making garlands, and as soon as I got better, the Philadelphia devotees came back and got me. And I remember Rajendra Nandana, he was our Sankirtan leader for a while, until the female party from Seattle came, and their female Sankirtan leader took charge of the women. But then after I got betrothed to Tarka, and we went to Boston, and we went to New York and Philadelphia. Anyway, he was working his first job. His first income was selling yogi bars. We had a health food route, a distribution route, and we took yogi bars to all the health food stores in the Philadelphia area. That was his first job. And he got injured, and we went to New York to stay at his parents' house. And then he started working for a good company called Sperry, later became Unisys. He had a nice income, and he was sending 50% of his paycheck every week to Gita Nagari, to the adopted cows. And his idea was to save money and move to Gita Nagari, because by that time, I had two little boys, and we wanted to put them in the Gurukul here. And Tarka would work overtime, and he also started a business, a computer business, where he would get parts and construct computers and what do you call it, business systems, interact. I forgot the terminology. I had it last night. Anyway, he was working very hard and sending money to Gita Nagari. We were planning to retire and come here with our children. And he was in a car accident, and he was unable to do the kind of work that he was doing on the radar towers, and he was numb in his fingers. He couldn't work on the electronic panels for the naval submarines. And anyway, he got retirement, and we moved to Gita Nagari on that. He was in a lot of pain at first and had a lot of physical therapy and painkillers, but he was so excited to come to Gita Nagari. And we got here, and we went to put the children in school, and I found out that everybody was leaving. Like Hans Rupp had bought this property in Alachua, and a lot of devotees were going there. Somebody had bought property in North Carolina, and the school was going there, and there's nobody left. There was like 4 children left here. And You needed 6 to have a legal school. When we had a legal school, we had access to government surplus, and they gave us computers and everything from metal plates to tents to vehicles you could get from government surplus. And we wanted to keep our legal status as an alternate school. So my children made 6, and they went to school, and after a few weeks, the teacher left. I can't remember his name. He was my godbrother. He was married to Satya, who left then and went to New York and married Ramabhadra. So there was no school teacher. So my first service was a substitute teacher. And I had these 6 children. There was Kalindi, the daughter of Kashori, who was a BBT editor, and my 2 boys. And there's 2 children from Russia. They lived in the apartment where Rajalila lives now. I can't remember his parents' names, but the boy's name was Bhima, and he was the first devotee child born in ISKCON in Russia. So, and there was Prahlad, Induleku's son, who was Muktavandu's wife. And there was those 6 children. Prema was too little for school. I'm not sure what I did with her when I was teaching. Her first friend, I think maybe Taruni was watching her, because Taruni was taking care of Nitai, Purana's oldest child, and Taruni taught Prema to read. She was Prema's first teacher. But I had this. So then a real teacher came from, I think, South Africa. Do you remember that? She married Madhava, our godbrother. She was an artist. Do you remember her name? Guru Seva. Yeah, Guru Seva came. I think she came from South Africa to be the school teacher. So I was relieved of that service. And there's more. And at that time, before I came, when we wanted to come to Gita Nagari from New York, I thought, they had a boys' ashram, which was on the top floor of the Sunset Cabin where Devamrita Swami is, right? And the girls' ashram was in this building on the 2nd floor, 3rd floor. They're on the 3rd floor, right? The girls' ashram. There was an ashram, but they were all gone when I got here. There was just a few children left. Anyway, there was sheep on the farm, and Satarika, he got involved with Balabhadra and the oxen. Of course, that was his love. He was all over the farm in the forests, and he would take the boys with him to learn everything, like putting fence posts in the ground. And the sheep were still here. The sheep that made the wool that made Srila Prabhupada's chadar that Satyabhama made from scratch, from the wool from the sheep, which he spun into yarn and wove into a chadar. Those sheep were still here, but nobody was taking care of them. So Tarka took the boys and they sheared the sheep. And I thought, well, I want to take up the service of spinning the yarn and making, weaving wool. I was into artisan kind of things. We also had rabbits. We had English Angora wool rabbits. We had about 20 rabbits that I thought I can make cashmere chadars. And we had no place to put them when we got here, so we put them behind the barn, kind of where the Roth cart is being stored now. And I would go there and take care of them. And one day they got out and they were all over the road and they're heading towards a field. And these Angora rabbits, you brush their fur. If you don't brush them, they get matted. And so they look like these giant, like dandelion puffs running around. And one of the schoolgirls' father was from Australia. His name was Siki Dari. And he was there and he saw me and he said, I can help you catch the rabbit. I know, I've been in the bush. I know how to catch rabbits. So he was running around and helping me catch. Let me put them back. Then later, and then I found that I was allergic to like brushing the rabbits and their fur. I brushed them and put the fur in a bag to later be woven into threads, and it was just too much, the dander from their skin, and it was just too much. There was another girl who came here. Her husband was Jambavan, and I forgot his wife's name, Sambit. They had a little boy named Hanuman. She rented the first floor in the Sunset Cabin, right over there, and she was into weaving and spinning too. So she had a couple goats and she wanted to take care of the rabbits. So I let her have the rabbits. And that was the end of my weaving adventures. What else do I got here? I was going to talk about the evolution of the school and the dissolution of the school and the reincarnation of the school. Oh, yeah, I have a couple stories. When Balabhadra and Targ were working together with Buck and Lou, whose names were Bhakti Vinod and Luglu, we called them Buck and Lou. He decided to make a training video, and Targa was going to videotape it, and Jul and Yatra and my god sister Yamuna were walking with Balabhadra, and Targa was videotaping them. They were, I guess they were disking the vegetable garden, which was between the Welcome Center and the tree line there. And of course, the cow pasture fence is still pretty much in the same area. And all the cows came over to watch the oxen. And I came to visit. Prema was just still a baby; she wasn't walking yet, and she had on this lovely straw hat, with a flower on it. And I thought, after watching the oxen for a while, I said, let's go say hi to the cows. So we're petting the cows, and the cow reaches up and he grabs Prema's hat and starts chewing on it because it's straw. And she was upset because she liked that hat. And I got it back, but it was mangled. I think we went home after that. And then another story we had was before we actually moved here, and we lived in New York. Every time there was a 3-day weekend or whatever, we'd come to visit Gita Nagari. And I came one time for Rath Yatra. I only had Krishnangri, he was still a baby. And at that time, there was no guest rooms, there's no guest houses. They had these big army tents set up between the schoolhouse and the row houses, which you now call the Forest View Suites. And like I said, there was trees everywhere. You couldn't see anything, so it was very private, but it was a giant tent. At that time, the row houses had forests up to the door, and the front door was on the other side, which now you use as a back door. So that's somewhere in there. I don't know, they set up tents. There was a little road between the schoolhouse and the row houses. Somehow they fit this big army tent in there, and they had a women's tent and a men's tent, and I went in. There was like 20 to 30 women and babies all on, sleeping bags and cots. And that's where we stayed. And they had a hanging shower outside in the trees, uh, you know, army surplus hanging shower with the plumbing and the handle. But it was very private because there's so many trees everywhere. And I don't know where the men's shower was. I guess it was on the other side. But I thought about it later, these army surplus tents probably came from the government surplus that the school was entitled to as a legal entity. That's probably where they got them. And so the schoolhouse, after, I don't know how much time I have.
Like a few minutes.
Well, I won't go through all the changes the school went through. Guruseva and Madhava got married. Eventually they moved and there was no school. And so I was homeschooling for a while. And then Bhakti Tirtha Swami came, and with him came Chintamani and Yashoda and Achyuta, and they had little children. And I remember trying to get Yashoda to be the schoolmaster so we could start the school again. And she didn't really want to do that. But we started a homeschooling co-op, where we'd take turns. The parents would teach different subjects, and we'd take turns schooling the children. So they were in a group. There's still only about 6 of them, maybe. I mean, that's a longer story, but anyway, we never really got our school started again. But while we weren't using the schoolhouse, Jayagopal and Damayanti came from Wisconsin, and he was a real handyman. He did everything. He wanted to refurbish the inside of the schoolhouse. So he's putting down new linoleum tiles. Everybody pitched in, all the parents. Puran and I were scrubbing the wood soot off the wood walls, because it was all wood heat, and they had indoor latrines for the children. We were scrubbing everything down. Remember, we worked so hard. And we never got the school started again, so the building got repurposed later. Well, yeah, but we didn't actually start school again.
Yeah, and that's what
Okay, I'm like I say, I'm 72. I'm confused, but we used it off and on, but we didn't create a legal entity, you know, as far as the government was concerned.
you know, trying to the schools already, you know.
And then Krishnambi and Gora went off to Mayapur, so that was the end of our school adventures. No, Tramer says no. Pardon?
Go for it, Fred.
Do you guys have any questions for me?
Help you with the school. Okay. My memory of because I was a child, so my memory of this is little fuzzy. But I remember a schoolhouse, a trailer on Yosoda Mai's property, and then everybody at Damayanti and Jagapal's house. Yes.
Oh yeah, I didn't even talk about dump. I didn't. And where?
In Temple, remember we had the school and we'd have like a breakfast in the temple, then
Sunday school?
no.
No, Prema remembers that, and I didn't remember that Brahma Muhurta was teaching the children, right? Yeah. But Damayanti and Jagopal came, and she was a teacher, and he was all over the woods and the fields. And Damayanti was a good teacher. She was a good school teacher. She had school. They had off the grid house with a wood cook stove. The children would help split the wood, load the fire, cook the meal. Prema said they used to walk over to Sudevi's house to pick up chapatis for the school children. And yeah, it was a good education.
We also learned how to make maple syrup with Jagopal.
Well, yeah, Jagopal was the first one to tap the maple trees and make the maple syrup. That was a big deal. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for
Thank you for tolerating me.
Okay. Somebody forgot the water. And
Yes.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, now we would like to invite Mother Kalki, as well as Sudevi also. Please come, because he came the same year, 1993. So we can do one at a time. Okay. Should be all set.
So I was in the Brooklyn Temple back in 1993, and we had been, well, first I was in the Boston Temple in 1970 something. And then I came from Boston to the Brooklyn Temple, actually. Yeah. And that was in 1993. We used to come and visit Gita Nagari, and I always was like, had a little prayer in the back of my mind. Let me just run away and go to Gita Nagari. So finally I came in 1993. There was a position that was open with the Gita Nagari Prep. So one of my god sisters said to me, why don't you go there and do the preps? So I thought like, well, okay, let me see how that would work out. So I took the position of the Gita press that was offered, and it was Srila Satsuru Maharaj's press. And we set out so many boxes of books through the US, and we sent out books also overseas. That was the main job of like, we kept books accurately, and then we packed the boxes and we took them to the post office. There were so many boxes that the post office actually enlarged their equipment and brought it up to date for all the, I mean, we had huge boxes of books and they were going out pretty often. So that way the post office was able to handle the books in the boxes. The press at that time was upstairs in the old temple building. And it was the GN, it was called the GN press. I had a room that was across the hall with Chaitanya Daya. I don't know if anybody remembers Chaitanya Daya, but she's, yeah. She lived in California now, and she's almost a doctor. She's like the top nursing degree, like that. So yeah. So we shared a room across the hall from the press, and then Lalita Mrita, if anybody remembers Lalita Mrita, yeah, she was my helper there, and she was so sweet. Unfortunately, she got cancer and she went to Krishna. She was so wonderful. I still have so many pictures, and she's in my heart. We had a special room. It was a room like a takeoff room, and it meant you were taking off from this body and going to Krishna. Hopefully. And so we took care of her. There was a devotee, I can't remember her name, but she was a nurse, and she came up with the idea of why don't we have a room where devotees can stay until they leave their body. So that's what we did. That room is no longer used for that purpose, but I think it's a good idea to have a room like that. And it was really situated very nicely. And devotees would come in and take care of her. We have pictures of her in that. That was on the second floor of the building over there. So for the altar, at one point in time here, we had Lord Jagannath, Lord Balaram and Lady Subhadra, and they were taken care of by Mother Kamini. Mother Kamini was an amazing person. She was cooking all the time. She was taking care of the deities in the morning. She went milk to cows when it was so cold and it was still dark out at times when she went. And through the snow, we used to get snowstorms that were crazy. And nobody wanted to be out, but the cows had to be taken care of. So she was doing that. We also had Shri Shri Radhakalachandji. They were so beautiful. Little about, you can tell me if I'm wrong. Yeah. Well, like they went to Dallas, right? Kalachandji was black. He was black marble. Radharani was brass. I had pictures that I brought with me, but unfortunately I left them in my car. So I couldn't bring them. Oh, one time, it was, I had gotten permission from my Guru Maharaj to have second initiation. So I remember I came and it was in the other building, and I didn't have very nice saris at that time. So some of the girls that were living here, they looked at my sari and they said, "You can't get initiated in that sari." So they took me upstairs and they found a better sari for me. So initiated that way. Oh, somebody said something about Damayanti being such a good teacher. She's still teaching. She's in Florida, and she's still a teacher for really lower grades, the little children. And she's so good at it. She's also, oh, and then Guru Seva. She is an excellent artist. She's actually known even in Europe for her artwork. And she published books, and yeah, she's very good. So thank you very much. Yeah, she illustrated his books. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Monica. Okay, now I'll take a pen. Mother Sudevi, would you like to come, please, to give us a short, spontaneous recollection of your memories from 1993 also? 91?
Hey, Hare Krishna. I was not expecting to be here this time. So Radha Damodar's mercy. I moved, thank you. I moved to Nagari in 91, but I first visited here in 87 for Rath Yatra. And it was really amazing. Just as you are driving in the car, all you will see is garden. On both sides of the street is garden, and then they had all this nice preparation for that they were selling also, and the fish, everything from the garden and from the cows. There's this big block of cheese. I didn't know what it was. I asked somebody, is this cheese made from here, the cows? And then also lots of people. The festival was 2 days. The next day again, they have opens a prasadam stall for selling. And they're selling like big potatoes from the garden. So it was so nice. Everything was fresh and nice. And like wondering there, we had big parade and all around the farm, but they would not go outside the farm. I keep saying, why are they not going outside? When do they go outside? Then finally I got somebody, was he not allowed to go in the city? They said, no, this is a country style of yatra. We just do it right on the farm. So it was very nice, very beautiful. And then very nice devotees I met. And anyway, I'm just going to say what
about Kitanana not my whole life. So when I moved here, before I moved here, I would come and visit. Of course, Mother Kalini was there and Lalita, Rita, and I wanted to be with them. And there was lots of festival and there was program and lectures and seminars and stuff. Prabhupada would come, Prabhupada Swami was coming, Ravindranath Prabhu. All year round there was something going on. When I was there, it was 3 day, holidays, there was something happening in Gitanagari. And then we would come, and then it was really, really nice every time I came. But I was not quite ready to move. Finally, in 91, I moved here, and it was very nice. Lots of very good association. I came from Brooklyn, New York, so it was a little different here. It's kind of adjusting to, but I started to liking it a lot. And then I got my first initiation here in the old temple room. And then I started Maharajasa Puja. Second initiation was here. I got married in the old temple room, and my son was born in my house in Nagari. So there's a lot of memories, and I stayed here the longest in one temple room. So Nagari meant a lot to me, and there's deities, of course, from Lagoda, and it's just such a special place. So I feel very happy that I got the opportunity to be here, and I would like to keep coming back. And thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Question.
Hare Krishna.
Weren't you living off the grid also? You
Oh yeah, but just you try. You try.
Okay. Thank you very much, Matsudevi. So now we'd like to invite Prajalila and Kamir Prabhu. Please come. For you. You came 1995, right? 94?
Namo Om Nidaya Krishna Prasthaya Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Dinamine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravan Pacharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Bhakti Shittarane Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Srimati Ditya Swami Dinamine Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Shittarane Shri Gauravan Shakti Bhakti Tita Itinamine Panchakalpa Turubhishcha, Kripa Sindhu Evacha, Patitanam Bhavani Hari Hari. So Ekavir requested that I start first, only because I had darshan of Shishira Damodar, probably in 1979, on my way to California. So one thing that's constant in Krishna consciousness is the care of the deities. Srila Prabhupada, he requested that deities all over the world, that they be cared for no matter what goes on. And something I can say from the year I saw Radha Damodar, about around 1979, maybe it was the end of 78, something like that. They are very beautifully cared for, no matter what happens. So that's something that's constant. So just to share real quickly how I first got darshan of Radha Damodar, my then Bartman Pradaksha guru, who had introduced me to Krishna consciousness. We were traveling to California to go to the LA temple, and he had family in Harrisburg. So he, at that time, he said, well, we were taking a train to California. He said, I want you to see these deities. They're hidden away in the forest, as many people have said. And I remember I was new to Krishna consciousness, so I really didn't know much about the deities. I had only seen Radha Govinda in New York Temple. And maybe within a few weeks of seeing Radha Govinda, we were going to California. And so when I came at that time, as everyone shared, it was the old building. And when I saw the deities, they were, Radha Damodar were really beautiful, just as beautifully dressed as they are now. That's how I saw them at that time, even though I didn't have no understanding of deity saver or deities. Then we went to California, and then as things work out, we came back to New York, to the New York Temple. And I had a roommate at that time, her name was Mahamantra, and she used to sew for Radha Kalachandji. And so she would always tell me stories about Satsvarup Maharaj and sewing for Radha Kalachandji. At that time also, Satsvarup Maharaj was he was the GBC or the guru for New York Temple. So I had seen him and I knew him because he would come and visit New York Temple often. And then I learned that there were many devotees living here in Gita Nagari. And so one year I got an opportunity to come here for the first Rath Yatra, where I experienced the ice cream at the creek. And I remember that. I don't remember what year that was. So all of these things happened prior to my spiritual master coming here. And me initially seeing Radha Damodar was before I met my spiritual master, Srila Bhaktitirtha Maharaj. So now we're going to go into the story of how we came here under the guidance of Srila Bhaktitirtha Maharaj. And for those of you that don't know, some of you may not be aware of this, and I want this, since you're recording, I want this recording to I want to share this so that if anyone has any questions about this, that they would hear that we share this, Ekavira Prabhu and myself. And so it was, I think in 1993, is it? That Srila Tamal Krishna Maharaj came to visit the institute which Bhaktitirtha Maharaj had founded in Washington, D.C., or in Maryland. The institute has been between Washington, D.C. and Maryland. And at the time, the institute was hosting many of the gurus. We had Guru Govinda Maharaj, we had so many different gurus come to visit Jamuna Devi. And when Tamal Krishna Maharaj came, he shared with Bhaktitirtha Maharaj that he had visited Gita Nagari, and that Gita Nagari was mainly being cared for by one Mataji. And she was doing so many different services, in order to care for Gita Nagari. And that Gita Nagari there were not very few devotees here. Maybe you could count them on your hands. And there were even fewer that were taking care of Radha Damodar. And he was sad because of the services he had done for Shri Radha Damodar. He loved Radha Damodar. Even he had small Chota deities that were Radha Damodar. And because Srila Prabhupada had lived here. So he wanted, and I'm using this word, he wanted Gita Nagari to be revived, so to speak, because Gita Nagari, again, it was mostly a lot of, it's nice, devotees say forest. To us coming from the city, it was like high grasses everywhere. We didn't see, at least I didn't see it like, oh, it's forest. And yes, there are a lot of trees, and however, things were not being cared for, and it was very obvious. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj brought this to Bhaktitirtha Maharaj's attention. Now, just to go back a little bit, Bhaktitirtha Maharaj had just come back to do practical services in ISKCON, because he had taken like a sabbatical from ISKCON due to some different situations that were going on about guru-disciple relationships. And so he took a sabbatical and started the Institute for Applied Spiritual Technology. He never left ISKCON. He was only on a sabbatical. So it was His Holiness Jayadvaita Maharaj that requested Bhaktitirtha Maharaj at one of the meetings to become the chairman of the GBC. And it was during that period when Jayadvaita Maharaj requested Bhaktitirtha Maharaj to please do the service of becoming the chairman, that Tamal Krishna Maharaj approached him and said, could you please go to Gita Nagari?
And I'll add this okay. There were several devotees that were asking him to take on that responsibility of North American GBC, and he refused. But then Tamal Jayadvaita Swami, and the reason why I'm sharing this because everyone knows his stature, his physical stature. It's very thin, and Bhakti Maharaj was quite, strong. And Jayadvaita Maharaj came and grabbed him, got behind him, and lifted him out of the chair, and then drug him over to the table where all of the other God brothers were, and he sat him down, and then he got to his ear and he said, "Srila Prabhupada, I want you to do this." And so that was a
Yeah. So we have between Ekavir Prabhu and I, we have a lot of little details about these pastimes, but we're trying to, just make it like an overview of everything really quickly. We actually can write a book about how we came to Gitanagari and all the details prior to coming to Gitanagari. Anyway, so Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj at first did not want to come. And because he was doing so much at the time that the Institute devotees were coming, and we were doing lots of preaching, lots and lots in the universities. And I don't know, many of you come from the city, so when you do city preaching, you know how intoxicating that can be. So to think to come to a farm and settle in a farm was just not a part of, our perspective at the time. Anyway, he decided because Tamar Krishnamurti kept asking him, then he said, "Okay, I'll go and see what's in Gitanagari." And he asked at that time that Ekavir Prabhu and myself come with him. So we drove with him here to Gitanagari to see what was here. And from a city perspective, from that perspective, when we came here, maybe you can share about that. What it was like when we came to Gitanagari.
It was very, very simple, of course. Rajalila saw tall grass, but I thought it was actually beautiful. At the same time, it wasn't a place that I considered moving to. And there were approximately 4 devotees that actually lived in the ashram. Mother Kalini, Lalita Amrita, 5 devotees. Lalita Amrita, Annapurna, Jiva, and Chaitanya Leela.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Jayagopal stayed in the blockhouse, and one other devotee, Chaitanya, can't remember his full name. Their family lived in the long blockhouse. So it's very simple. So many different things going on, and then eventually Jeff came and he was caretaking the cows.
Jiva Goswami was here also.
Jiva.
Yeah, Satsvarup Maharaj's disciple. So just so that we can keep it brief, we want to just share our particular contributions to coming to Gitanagari and how that everything is so interconnected. Every one of us is so interconnected, and how Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj was used for that period of time to bring about connection with devotees, because everyone were isolated when we came here. We couldn't see so many devotees. As Ekavir Prabhu said, there was 3 devotees doing deity service. Mother Kalini, who, as we hear, she was skiing down the hill to take care of the cows because of the snow. Jai Shri Shri Radha Damodar ki, Lalita Vishakha ki, Jai Srila Prabhupada ki, Jai Gaura Haribo. And so Mother Kalini, Annapurna, and Lalita, no, not Lalita Rita, Gupta's wife. Induleka. Those 3 devotees were taking care of the deities.
Yeah.
They were doing everything. So they were like the main ones that were doing everything here in Gitanagari mostly. And there was a non-devotee, his name was Jeff, who was taking care of the cows. And that's a whole story. We could write a book about that. And so anyway, that was our first experience of coming to Gitanagari. And that was between the time that we drove here with Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, saw the place, talked about it, in the car, Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj said, "I want you and Ekavir to go to Gitanagari." And we were devastated.
No, I have to give it clarity.
Country boy, I'm not.
Give it clarity. So, of course, Zoltan's Mufti Mirage came here, and we would bring him each time he would come to get to Nagari. I was his driver at that time, so we would come along with him. And it started in 1993. And each time we would come, he would contemplate. And in 1994, he came here and he said, I wonder who I could actually get to come to Gita Nagari. And then Roger Little was in the back seat. He said, anyone you ask, Guru Maharaj? He said, you want to make a bet?
I wouldn't have told this part of the story.
And so, and we went back, and then so many different things took place. And one other time we went to, in 94, we went to the Temple President's GBC meeting in North America with them in the Lodge at that point in time. And after that, so it's on Ravindra Swarup Prabhu and everything. They invited us to come. We come there. We have a board meeting, so please come. And so we brought his own instructor to Maharaj back here. And during that time, I said, okay, we're going to have election of officers. And so here's the meeting, and we have the election of officers. And they said, oh, Mother Kalini, you've been taking care of Gita Nagari so nice, and we would like you to assume that role again. And she said, I really would prefer someone else would take on that responsibility. He said, no, right now, just please continue. In due time, we'll find someone else to take on the mentor. Okay, how about vice president? The room gets dropped, dead silent. And then Jai Gopal looks, what about one of you guys? And I said, well, we're still managing the institute in Washington, D.C. It wouldn't be fair for the either community. And then Zonas Bhakti Tirthamara said, we can find somebody to take on the responsibility in Washington, D.C. Said, everyone in this room is overworked. I'm overworked. Ravindra Swarup Prabhu is overworked. Mother Kalini is overworked. Take on the responsibility. It's okay. And I looked at him and I said, you tricked us. You tricked us. And so that was the beginning. And then later, he said, okay, I want to send Rajulila and Ekavir are going to go to Gita Nagari, but we want to send some more devotees there also. I said, Bali Mara, they need help with the cows, so we're going to send you to assist with the cows. And then we met Balabandra, and it was arranged that Bali Maharaj, myself, and Sadachar went to be trained to work with the oxen. And so we went to North Carolina with Balabandra for a few weeks, and each and every day we wake up, and it was in the wintertime. We wake up in the morning, freezing cold. We chant, and then we go outside. Of course, it's North Carolina, it's not like here. And we go out, and we go to, at that point in time, Balabandra was living in a bus. And so we go and knock on the door, and Balabandra would come out of the bus. He said, okay, I'll be with you in a minute. And he'd go and he'd gather some water, and we'd sit and chant, and he'd kneel down on a little pallet, and he'd take this bucket of water. And I'm like, oh my God. And then we get started and we work the cows. I worked with the oxen all night. And that's before we came to Gita Nagari.
So I just want to mention also there was a couple in Asuya Parikshit, and they were having some challenges in Washington at the time. And so Bhakti Tirthamara suggested that they should also come. So they came actually prior to us coming to live here. They were here and they were living at the Institute House. So I just want to acknowledge that, that they decided that they would honor Bhakti Tirthamara's request. Now, remember, those of us that, and I'm sure all of us here, we're trained to follow the instructions of the spiritual master. And so whatever at that time that he would ask us to do, we would do it. Even if we had other ideas or other thoughts, we would do it because that's what Krishna consciousness meant to us. And so again, just because we have 15 minutes, maybe we want to share two contributions, maybe three, two though, that were important. As devotees share, the old temple
the deities were being worshipped, Radha Damodar, in the old temple.
Even before that, please. I know we only have 15 minutes, but just coming here because this is it. It's a interesting story. We were planning to move to Gita, so we were moving everything out of the Institute in Washington, D.C. We got a U-Haul truck. I got off work. I worked with Unisys and Sperry, just like Tarka was working with that company. And we had stopped work, got off work. We came and we started loading this U-Haul truck. And so Brahma, myself, Sadachar, Garuda, and Ajit, those were 5 of us. And so we were loading the truck. At 10 p.m., we finished loading the truck. And so we were in the temple room of the Institute and we were relaxing. We said, we finally finished loading the truck. And as soon as we finished, Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj came downstairs and said, "You all ready to go?" I said, "Ready to go? What do you mean ready to go?" He said, "We're going to get to Nagari." "Tonight?" I said, "Yeah, get ready. We're leaving 10 minutes. Like, oh, man. And so we load up and I'm driving the U-Haul truck and Bali Maharaj, he had an ice cream truck. And so he's driving the ice cream truck. I'm driving the U-Haul. Tirtha Maharaj is in the passenger seat, and then Brahma and the other crew are following in their vehicle. I'm driving along as we're coming to Gita Nagari at late around midnight. It starts snowing, and as it's snowing, I'm driving down 80, 81, 83. I looked in my rearview mirror, and I saw Bali, and he looked like he was waving at me, and he was doing like this. And I said, "Why is he waving at me? Why? If he wants me to get off the highway, why?" He kept doing that. So, "Bali, what is going on?" And I said, Guru Maharaj, I need to pull over. Bali's waving at me for some reason. And so I pulled off the highway, and Bali pulls off the highway. And as I'm walking back toward the ice cream truck, it's snowing, of course, and I realized I saw Bali. He was so clearly, he was so vivid. And as I got closer, there is no windshield. The windshield had fallen off his ice cream truck, fallen off. And he was doing like this because the snow was falling into his eyes. He was trying to. I said, "Bali, why didn't you say something?" He said, "Well, I didn't want to stop." So anyway, we keep going. We come to Gita Nagari. We get to Gita Nagari, stop. Once we get into the Institute, we say, "Oh, here we leave." It's 1:30 in the morning. And Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj said, "Okay, let's just while we're going in, let's just grab something and take it into the house." Okay, and so we went in and we got something and we started taking it into the house. And then he said, let's get a few more things here. And as you bring it in, he's putting the things in place where he wants it. Unloading boxes. "I'll take this lamp here. Oh, this picture, we even hanging pictures." And so fast forward at 7 a.m., we finished unloading the truck after coming to Gita Nagari, which we didn't plan on coming to Gita Nagari. After getting to Gita Nagari, we didn't plan on unloading the truck. And so he said, "Okay, we can rest now." It's 7 o'clock. No hot water, of course. So we have this remembrance of Balabhadra taking this cold shower. But Gita Nagari showers are not like other cold showers. Water are really cold. And anyway, and then the devotees, when they came there to the Institute, they cleaned the place the night before and they left at 10 o'clock. And so when they came to the house and they got there and the whole house was, set up with pictures on the wall, the couches are in place, they said, "Oh, why did you do this? I was here just." It's like,
So that was Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj. He kept us always on our toes and made sure that we were utilizing Krishna's time at every moment. Those are memories that we have of him. So one of the memories was when we came
here, one of the things he planted in our heads was him, meaning him. When I say I mean him, he wanted Radha Damodar to have a temple because this was a structure. It wasn't built. A devotee had been here and he had laid the structure. He's a disciple of His Holiness Guru Govind Maharaj, Leela Avatar. He had laid the structure and hadn't completed it. He left it with just a structure. And Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj's desire was that Radha Damodar would have this temple completed. And so, however, we didn't have the Lakshmi because we were poor, even though we were doing all this preaching, we didn't have lots of Lakshmi. And devotees were coming, and most of the devotees that were coming, they were employed or they had their young families they were taking care of. So we kind of didn't have much money from those devotees that were working, that were employed. And so he was praying to Radha Damodar. We want to move you. We want this temple to be completed. Between that time, I was offered a job by the U.S. Department, by the American government, to do some conflict resolution services in another country, which I won't name. And I went to that country not being a devotee because we needed the money to finish this temple. And so I worked as an undercover devotee for like almost 4 months in this country, doing conflict resolution seminars throughout the country. And when we came back, this is like 2002 or something like that, or 2001, we used the money to finish this temple. And Ekavira Prabhu, he actually was the person that completed this temple with a crew of devotees. This is why we have this temple today. And this is, and just to complete that story, that pastime, when, so now we have the temple is completed, but the deities are still over there in the old temple. So back to Tirtha Maharaj, she said, but Radha Damodar, okay, you got to come here. We want you over to the new temple. And he was praying, like, because we didn't have the money to move. So always Lakshmi, right? Lakshmi is always involved in some way. So we've had the Lakshmi. I got paid very nicely from the US government. We finished the temple, did these floors. These floors are done from wood from here in Gita Nagari. And then he said, he started praying because to oh, but we don't have much time. Okay. All right, go ahead.
In August of 2001, Varuna Prabhu went to visit His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Swami at the Institute. And he said, I'd really like to do, he was living in Alachua at that point in time. And is there any service I can do? And Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj said, yes, you can help us finish the temple. Raja Leela has worked, and she's, has given a certain amount of money to actually finish the temple, but it's not enough. Said, so we'd like you to actually help to finish the temple. He said, oh, well, yeah, I can fundraise. Said, okay, let's fundraise. Said, all right, wonderful. He said, so we'd like to have a deadline of Kartik, and Varun said, yeah, no problem. Kartik next year, we can do that. He's like, Maharaj, it's August. Kartik starts in 2 weeks. I mean, it was actually September. He said, how was that? No, it's not. It was 6 weeks that Varuna actually had to prepare for this. It's not, I don't think we could do it. And he said, what did Srila Prabhupada say about the word impossible? And so then we started actually doing the construction here. And we didn't really, I shared that because on a so much so that we placed a couple of cots downstairs in the basement. Solitary used to stay downstairs, and myself, we used to stay downstairs. Bali had a room. And so things were going on. Shetra lady in here. Marietta would come with a crew of devotees on the weekend to do different services. And so many different devotees were filling in. And at so 6 weeks after speaking to Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, we were in the month of Kartik, and things are still going on. And are we really going to be able to make this? Are we really going to be able to move them into their new home? And so the ceremony, she should rather Damodar here into the new temple.
So Varuna was a disciple of His Holiness Satyavrat Maharaj, who loved Gita Nagari. Still, he loves Gita Nagari. And yeah, he was very instrumental in helping us in ways. Also, Henry real quickly, because we couldn't really the DDs came over and we needed to have an altar. And
So we need to pay off the actual. We received a loan from the bank to actually start the process. We had 2 years on the mortgage. We extended the mortgage so that we could continue, to supplement, because we didn't have enough luxury from what Rajulu actually had donated.
And Varuna.
And what Varuna was fundraising. But at that point in time, Varuna had to start a fundraising. And so if we didn't pay off this amount, we would have a balloon payment at the bank. And so it was $30,000 we needed in addition. In a matter of, it was on a weekend, Saturday, we needed it the following week.
And so Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj went in prayer. This building and prayed for the deities to be nicely situated on the altar. And that's a story that I won't go into because it's a bit of a long story and it's really worth sharing it with the proper details. However, I just want to share very briefly that this devotee, Henry, and some of you may know Henry from Maryland, Henry, that time he had gotten anyway, there's a whole story about that, but he got some luxury. He won a car, and the car was exactly $30,000. $30,000, a Mercedes. And he sold the car and gave the money to Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj. And that's how the DDs got situated here. That's how Radha Damodar got situated in the altar. That's how we could do the opening of this temple. And that's how, so many beautiful and wonderful things happened after the temple opened. So we wanted to share just briefly some of those pastimes. There's lots of pastimes that we can share about Gita Nagari. One of the pastimes is when we were here, because we were brought up to be very loving and caring and together and family. And so then it was just a few of us that were here and a few of such Maharaj disciples. And Ingrid and I were feeling isolated, and we were feeling sad a lot. At least I was sad a lot. Ingrid liked it in Gita Nagari from the beginning because he's, like I said, he comes from a country background.
Detroit.
He comes from Detroit, but he grew up a lot with his grandmother, who lives in the country. I'm like New York, New York, New York. And he went to school in Louisiana. I mean, it's Louisiana, it's a country, right? But it's country, real country. It's country. It's country.
Anything outside of New York.
That's why Ikagar so sweet, because he's untouched by city stuff. But anyway, so where was I with that? So I'm just saying because we were such a loving and caring family, we felt so isolated and it was just hard. Everything was hard. Some of the devotees were not so supportive, and it was just a lot. It was challenging. So we kept annoying our spiritual master. You got to bring devotees here. You got to bring some of those devotees from the city. You got to bring them. They got to come. And he said, but they're working and they have jobs. And we kept on him, and we went to some of those devotees and showed them money. I think I went to a Juja. We went to a few of them. You guys, Chintamani Jagannath, guys, this, you got to come help out here. Da 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 da. Chintamani was, they're all engaged in their professional services. And then finally, I think, was it you showed up first? Okay. You showed up. Was it was it Chuta first? Yeah, because the Chuta has that move. She's like, yeah, I'm on an adventure. Okay, I'll go on the adventure. She quit a job and she came and she'll tell her story. But I thank you guys so much for coming, for giving up your professions to come here and help, because for me, Gitanagari was hard. And I've learned to love it. I will never leave Gitanagari. I want to die here. And I just thank all the devotees. And I'm glad we could go into Dhruva and Parijata's story, but we want you to tell them to tell it themselves. Hare Krishna. Thank you for gotta go over there.
I would be remiss if I just didn't add one more point. And that, as Rajulu expressed, there were so many devotees that actually came at that point in time. And it was like, I believe the Charya, the Sringatira, the Mangalarti, Brahmahortis, in a cart to meet you, you know, to help us here. And we lived off of a $3,000 a month budget, and we had 36 devotees here.
At that time.
At that time. And I remember we went to the North American GBC meetings, and they disclosed our financial statement by every temple. And they looked at our budget and it's like, how is this possible? You have a budget that's equal to the preaching center in Boise, Idaho. How are you doing that? And at that point in time, we had more devotees living in the temple than any other temple in America other than Los Angeles Temple. And one thing that we strive to do is to develop the relationships with the other temples along the East Coast. And so for festivals, we would send manpower to New York Temple, to Waco, to Potomac. And they would look for these devotees. And that's how we developed this relationship. And at that point in time, Chicalaga and Potomac, they were looking at us as a sister temple, as well as New York, and then Pompano and Harrisburg. And so we were developing different, expanding and developing the Gitanagari community into other cities and other areas by trying to be servants of these other temples also.
And I just want to say, because as you sharing that, it reminded me of the Srinath Tirtha and Advaita Acharya. They were the two devotees that were consistent with doing book distribution, cookie distribution, whatever we could give them to go out and do in order to help us pay the monthly bill.
That's how they did it.
That's how we
and
did
Mukta
that.
Vanya Prabhu.
Yeah, Mukta was
helping.
helping.
Chakra.
Yes, well, yeah, they came later, Harchakra and his beautiful, wonderful family, and they helped us. Amazing, helped us so much. Thank you, Haribol. I think Kalki has her hand, but I don't think so. Yeah, there's so many devotees.
Okay, thank you very much. And next will be a tutor. Oh, good to be here. Please come. Now, a tutor, he came in 1996. Namaste Krishna Prabhupada Shabni Shuddha Namo Vishnaya Krishna Sai Buddhavation Bhakti True Swami. Hare Krishna. Oh, thank you. Please, Lord. So, it's so wonderful hearing these wonderful pastimes, and I'm so grateful to have been a part of them in some small way by the mercy of my Guru Maharaj. So, I remember being a part of one of these, fact-finding missions to Gitanagari. I don't remember what year. It must have been, I think it was the same year that I came, 1996. And I didn't realize, I guess, that it was not the first trip that Gurudev had been on to come here. And I had the good fortune of going on many adventures with Gurudev. So, as many of us did, many of his disciples did. And so for me, it was just another adventure. I don't think at the time that I knew it would be where I would be living or moving to. So And I think it was with that trip with Bali with the van. I think we came then. Uh, and at that time when we came to visit, it was just a visit. Like many devotees have said, there weren't many devotees here. Mother Kalini was holding down the fort, doing her amazing service with, taking care of the deities, taking care of the cows, and and Mother cooking. And I remember Annapurna, she had a store. They had a store where you could buy dry goods and a few health food items. At where what used to be the yoga studio, and Malini and Jiva. And that's about all I remember that were here actually on the farm. And I just remember thinking, this place is so deserted. Like, how are they doing, function, how is this program, how is this symbol even functioning like this? And, there was talk of, Gurudev coming and, sending disciples here. I didn't, like I said, know at that time that I would be one. I had just recently gotten married to Sadachar Prabhu, and I had just recently graduated from a very prestigious university in Washington, D.C., um, the American University, where many uh, delegates and, from around the world send their kids to school. So this is a very prestigious university. So I definitely had no plans of coming to a place like Nagari after I graduated from that. I thought, get some nice, job. I had studied sociology and communications and, thought I would do some work in broadcast journalism, become a social worker, something far out like that. I had been to the Peace Corps, and God, and then one day, my new husband said to me, um, Gurudev wants us to go to Gita Nagari. And I was like, what? A city girl. Like he also had grown up in North Carolina, which is country. And so he was kind of open to it, although he had been, mostly, doing things in the city and working a job in the city. But, my Guru Maharaj gave us this instruction and my husband had agreed. So I felt like I just had to go and check it out and see. Like Rajalila said, I was very adventurous, had been in Peace Corps. So I just thought, oh, it's just another adventure. So we came, and when we first came, we stayed in the temple, the old temple, on the second floor in the top room where Bali Maharaj used to stay for a while, but we had two rooms. And I remember one of my favorite pastimes was a 3:30 offering because of sweets. At that time, we used to make burfi every day. I don't know if you guys still do, but we used to make burfi every day. And I would race down those stairs to get burfi. And Sadachar was reading Mahabharata. He couldn't put it down. He just, put it down and do the service and come back and delve back into it. And I had the very good fortune and very blessed to be able to be Pujari for Lalita and Shakti for many years. And I got to dress Radha only at night. And I remember one time dressing them and I was rushing. And somehow I was rushing to dress Radharani. And Krishna, somehow, like I got hit in the head, like really hard. And I thought, I better ever never do that again. But many years of, just coming down, finally after a few months, because we were supposed to move into the blockhouse, which was nowhere near as fancy as it is now. But when we were living there, we were living on the top floor. And after a few months of living in the temple, then we moved down after it was ready. Some work had to be done to it. And I remember coming down in the morning, I got to the point where I didn't need a flashlight anymore. I would just go by the moonlight. And it was so, just such wonderful service. For many years, Sadachar woke the deities up every single day. He took care of the cow. Um, and he started a garden project. So with this garden project, He was, visiting other local farmers and attending different conferences and things like that. This organization called PASA, and he would, take mentors, and so really learning how to do um, very intensive farming, like Ekavir Peru was saying. He had gone to this training in North Carolina to learn how to take care of the cows, and he learned how to make hay. Like this wasn't something he grew up doing, it was something he learned here. And my service, additional service on the farm, was to be the fundraiser for Adopt a Cow. So that first year that we came, so I was doing, taking care of Lalita Vishaka, but also was a fundraiser for the Adopt a Cow program. And I had this idea. I saw, like I said, I loved Burfi so much. Cardamisha was so expert at making this Burfi. And we had these little boxes that we put it in and ship it out to the donors. And they really got into it. So we were, supplying all the donors with Burfi every month. So somehow by Krishna's mercy, I was able to raise $40,000 in the first year of, you know, uh, doing that service, which doesn't seem like a lot of money now, but then it was a lot. It was pretty awesome to be able to do that service. And with the garden project, I wanted to share that so Sadatar had gotten so expert with the garden that in the dead of winter, with snow piled outside, we actually have pictures, which I'm glad we do because I don't think people would believe me if we didn't. We had greens growing inside the greenhouse, which he built, himself by hand. It had no artificial heating. It was just designed in such a way that it was super insulated. That we had collard greens and kale and arugula and all kinds of salad mixes inside greenhouse in the dead of winter. Um, so I wanted to share also that my son, Kitchen of Krishna Das, was conceived here. Um, and he was we did the 50 rounds thing. He was actually called on, into the universe, into this lifetime here on Gita Nagari Dam. We would walk down the trail, we exchanged garlands from Radha Damodar, and I won't go into any further details, but I just wanted to share that he was actually called into this onto the planet in this lifetime here. And we all had Amish midwives, which was really cool because if we had not been here, most of us probably would have had hospital births, but we all had Amish midwives. You showed them my age and Tommy, and my midwife's name was Bathsheba, and her family had a street named after her here between here and State College, and they were fascinated by us. Me, there was Molly who was Anasuya's midwife, and so we all, nourished our children and supported one another. And I remember Gurudev saying the kids were so well cared for here that you wouldn't know who was their mother when you would see them because they were cared for so nicely. So we were doing the garden service, taking care of the garden and the cows and, just so tired of doing trees before either one of us started working on the outside. But once we had a child, I thought, it was difficult to maintain ourselves, even though, most of our needs were met, but we had no luxury to, be able to provide for our child. So I was kind of pressuring myself, like, toilet paper, you need to go to work now. Like, and so he ended up getting a job truck driving, which took him away from the farm a lot and our family, which was really hard, you know, um, hard on our family. But we had, our family here in Gita, so that also was very helpful to still be in a community of support. But eventually, once Kinshana got school age, I had to go back to work. But what was really wonderful about being in Itanagri and being around mother, so much, having so much support is that, we were able to support, be very well supported and have a lot of our needs met. But like I said, as he got older, Oh, I was gonna say that we would you know, I for the first 5 years of his life, I was able to stay home with him, which they always say how important it is for a child in their first, you know, developmental years to be with their parents, you know, to be taken care of by their parents and not to have to be put in childcare. But I remember when it was time for me to start thinking about going to work, going places to think, you know, find somewhere for him to be cared for, and crying after I left the daycare, thinking I can't leave my child here. Like our pastime was we would go around to different places from park to park to the swings to the playground. And we did it so much that Akinchina thought every time we passed the playground that we were supposed to stop. Right? Just trying to think of different pastimes that came up. So eventually, yeah, when I started working and uh, we ended up being able to buy a house nearby. Um, the house right next door to Mother Taruni and Yadunanda Prabhu. Um, and so at that time, Akinchina was about 5 years old. So we had lived on the farm for about 5 years. And then we moved to the house that Yadunanda and Tejas Prabhu had built. And my mom at that time had come also to eventually live with us because she needed care, full-time care. So we were able to take care of her there. And she actually left her body there and it was a very auspicious transition. And I thought from that experience, I remember all the devotees came when my mother was leaving her body. And I thought, I hope I'm as fortunate as she leaves, when I leave my body, to be surrounded like I so much love. I remember her hospital bed. We had a hospital bed because we were, you know, she was not able to move or anything. So we had this nurse come just to give pain meds, and she was saying how nicely my mom was being taken care of. But when she left her body, the devotees came. By this time, the Canadian devotees had come too, and they were drumming, and with the bed was jumping like this from the ecstatic kirtan that we were able to offer, you know, to my mom. She had to take Arshana of the DDs. I remember one time the altar was closing, and my mom, she was very attracted to the deities. And she pushed the gate, the old doors back open to see them take the Arshana. Yeah. So I want to share one last, oh, before I share the last pastime that I want to share, I just want to say that, so eventually, like after leaving, you know, the farm, living in our house, eventually, uh, I wanted to move to Harrisburg because we were commuting for like 10 years or more, back and forth. I used to ride with Gubrit Prabhu. We would carpool to work every day. Um, it was exhausting, you know, doing that work. And then I was also driving for my job, visiting, you know, families in Harrisburg and in the mountains in Upper Dauphin and the middle snowstorms in Perry County. And I was just like, we gotta move. And then Sautertrack was on the road all the time. And I was like, it makes more sense for us just to move to the city and then come back like on the weekends to Gita Nagari. He wouldn't have it. You know, he was so attached to the land farming. So we would always say, you know, Gita Nagari wasn't just here, but even where the families lived outside of Gita Nagari, off the farm, we would consider that Gita Nagari. Gita Nagari must have extended for, although it's like about 300 and something acres, we refer to it as, you know, probably even where the families lived as well. So he was not, so he stayed in Kitchen and I went to the city. But whenever I would come back, and even to this day, when I come back, I feel this sense of peace as soon as I enter the gates. You know, it's like I'm home. It's always like that, you know, for me. But I want to share this last pastime now. So a few years ago, the devotees, I was thinking about moving back to Maryland. I actually have been offered a very nice position at at Georgetown University as a chaplain. And the devotees from the temple president and Kamini, they were like really pushing me to take this position because they wanted to use it like as a preaching opportunity to attract the students to, you know, the Masonic temple. So they were, intervening and facilitating the meetings between me and one of the director of the program. And so I was really in prayer about, was this something I should really do? So I went to my Guru Maharaj's Samadhi and I prayed like, Gurudev, should I really, do this? And I was, kind of got quiet. I didn't get an answer right away. So on that particular day, my shoes were missing, which happens often, especially, but more often when there's like a big festival. So there was no big festival, it was a quiet time in Nagari. And usually if your shoes go missing, you end up finding them before it's time to leave. Well, it was time for me to leave, and I could not find my shoes. So I just took somebody else's because I had to go. And they were those plastic like claws. And I was like, nobody really missed those. So I was taking because that was what I had. So they looked like they weren't mine, were new. So I was kind of upset. I was like, where are my new clothes? And I was like, I gotta go. I was gonna take these shoes. So I put the clogs on and I went by this time the gate was there that's in place now. So I went there and I couldn't open the gate wouldn't open. So I'm sitting there and I texted, I think I just posted on WhatsApp. Somebody, can you please come help? I mean, I can't get out. It was changed. It didn't have the fancy code that it has now. It was changed a lot. And I texted, please come, somebody come open the gate. So it took a while. I was sitting there. And finally a guard came and he tried to open it and he couldn't. And it was just locked. Is he in here? No. You remember that? There he is. And he was so frustrated because he couldn't open the gate, with the key or whatever means he had to open it. So he disappeared. He said, Mother, no, this gate like this, but I'll be back. So he disappears and he comes back and he breaks the lock. He get me out. And I took that as my message that Radha Damodar did not want me to leave. And come to find out it was a Gari who had taken my So Radha Damodar really do have a way and responding to your prayers. So always never doubt their ability to respond in their own playful way. Remember, they're only 5 years old. So I'm forever grateful that they allow us to come back to their playgrounds, place fun things. Okay. Thank you, Druba. And questions, yes, mother.
He's trying to participate. His name was coming up on the screen like he's opening his mic to something. And I wanted at some point to check in and see what he was trying to do.
So in 97, I was pregnant before, I was pregnant with the Kinchana with my daughter, Lilavati. And she had left her body. At the time she was due to be born, she actually left in the womb. And there's a whole pastime around that where my Guru Maharaj was supposed to go to some GBC conference, and instead of going, national GBC conference, he came here to be with us and actually walked with us while I was having contractions in the middle of the night. And, many, always reflect back, like, who does that? What who's Guru Maharaj does that? Like, he was so personal with us in that way. But after she had left, of course, there was the devastation of losing the child in the womb in such a way. Mother Kalini told me to come to help take care of the cows. We had this cow at the time, I think her name was Saranagati. I'm not sure if I have her name, but she was real feisty. Hmm? That's her, right? Saranagati. She would chase you. She was very feisty. And somehow, though, she would let me feed her because when they calve and they try to um, if you want to get their milk and not just have the calves take all the milk, you have to feed them with a bottle. So I actually got to feed Sarah. She would let me feed her, and it was so healing for me to be able to have that experience, especially after my daughter had left. And I also wanted to share one thing that many pastimes that we had with our Guru Maharaj here in Gitanagari, in the surrounding area, is that when he would come to just rest and take shelter here from his many travels around the world, he would do things like take bike rides with us. And one of the most joyful times of my life was being on the hill of Mother Taruni's property and Yadaganda's property, skiing. And our Guru Maharaj was very competitive. So whenever we would he would take us to picnics, and he had chintamani and Yashoda arm wrestling and doing things like that. We'd be playing volleyball, but somehow he would always win. And of course, you weren't gonna try to beat your Kumar, so you had to let your Kumar win. So we were racing down the hill. I have pictures of this too with my son and I. We had these huge smiles on our face because, like I said, it was I remember he had this thing he would say when he left that it doesn't get any better than this. And I remember that day thinking it really doesn't get any better than this.
Krishna, so we touching upon Prabhu. He doesn't want to say at this point anything, so we'll continue with Jagannath and Harmony. Prabhu came here in 1996.
all Vishnu branches and the Vishnu Bhakti to this stay Vishnu and Prabhupada Vishnu Vishnu. I'm on Vishnu branches and the Vishnu Bhakti is all from our Namaste Saraswati Devi Gurdana Chandi Vishesha Shri Rampas Chavas Chavai. When to go to this chat, I was in the Vishnu number of your Wow, so many memories. I have to really be short this for sharing time and others are going to speak. But I also remember the first time driving on farm. I don't remember what year it was, but it was just as Mother Shama Gopuru was describing. Yeah, it just opens up and you're just like all this land and you're just coming up over the hill entering. And I can't remember if it was 94 or 95. But and then the other thing I recall, well, we were playing Srila Prabhupada's one of his bhajans I can't remember which one, the name of it, but I remember the song when I hear it, and that's just stuck in my mind whenever I hear it. But and then we got darshan of Radha Damodar, and we were there, and there were things that happened before that actually, because I can't remember the actual sequence of events. But Mother Vegavati, who's now in the Latchman, she came to us and said, Shri Radharama are really special. If you pray to them with a really sincere heart, they will fulfill your prayers. And so there was one point before we went to Mayapur for the first time in 1990, February 96. I think it was November the year before that we came to visit Gita Nagari. And we passed the house that was burned down last year. We passed that house and it was for sale. And we're thinking, wow, this would be nice. It's right down the street from Gita Nagari, from the farm. So yeah, that'd be great. So 3 months later or so, we went to Mayapur. Had wonderful, amazing experiences. The year before Govinda left his body also. He had just left a couple uh, weeks before we got there. And so um, when we got back in March, the house we were living in, somehow there was a lien on the property. You remember? There was a lien on.
an error though, because
Yeah, at the time we were like, okay, we wrote it down when I was saying, we should move out of this house because there was a lien on it. And so we were actually reflecting like that. Well, we went back to the property, came to Nagari, looked at the property, and we just went on a limb and just said, yeah, let's do it. So, and Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj actually assisted in the negotiation to negotiate the price of the house, with the sellers. So that was February. We got back in March from Mayapur. 6 months later, we moved in September. So we remained here now. And I just remember just helping out with a lot of different services until I got my first job here. And let's see, let me just look at my notes because I don't want to just keep going on and on. But one of the things that's it's hard for me to compress things into a short amount of time. But Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, the mood that he created was just, he had so much care and love for family, children, and so on. I remember right here. You may remember this, David. Prema, you might remember this too. We were dancing in front of Prabhupada with Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, back and forth right here. And Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj had both of the girls' hands back and forth. You remember that? Maybe you had like 5 or 6 or something like that. But and another thing that strikes me is that when it was just, there's a video, I think it was Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj's last Vyasa Puja here. He was talking about right here. And devotees were coming. And it's just a very natural thing. Jana was very young, maybe 5 or 6 then. And so people were coming up and offering petals, and he would give, a little sweet or a cookie or something. And as soon as Jana just, bowed down, got the thing, it's just like an all-in-one motion. She's reaching up and gets this big hug from Maharaj. It was just like a normal thing. It was like not even a question. As soon as she gets up, she's going right into his arms. It's so sweet. Um, and also connected with Jana was every 4th of July, I think starting from her first birthday, we would go to this park that had a beach at what is it called? Greenwood Furnace, yeah. And the community would go and we'd have, like it was describing, and we'd also have water sports, and we'd be splashing my ride also, because if you drop the ball in the water, then you would get splashed. So sometimes we'd splash. Oh yeah, races. We'd have relay races.
The ones with the stick, the ones that you
Oh yeah,
stick,
yeah. And the children on up to Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, we were all in those races. 2 teams. And of course, he would always his team would win all the time. um, so we would have yeah, well, yeah, but you could mention that one, yeah. But another pastime that stuck out is how much he was always trying to prepare for the future Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj. So if you all remember Y2K, so he would have we actually had there were several houses that got the hand pumps that were about this tall and you could without electricity you get water. And the farm had like two or three of them too, I think. And just a few months ago, I remember you showed him my saying, "Yeah, I still have a bucket of beans from way back when." In a 5-gallon bucket. So another thing that stands out for me is how much Kartamisha, Mother Kartamisha cared for Shishi Radha Damodar as a Pujari. And she always wanted to share Radha Damodar with devotees. She would take Radha Damodar to New Vrindavan.
With the Chuta.
Yeah.
The Chuta would go with them. Yeah.
I can't remember what festival it was, but maybe it was Festival of Inspiration. But during the Rath Yatras also, we had over out across the Welcome Center. That's where the events would take place, and Radha Damodar would be there as well. And of course, with Julan Yatra. And we also had a big frame. Like if it was too much rain outside, we had built a frame for Radha Damodar to do Julan Yatra inside here, right in the back of the temple. Another thing I remember with connecting with Rath Yatras, the service that I did was the having the wood sawing contest. The kids would love that. I mean, people coming from everywhere. And oh yeah, the other aspect with the Y2K is that the house that we had a wood and coal burning stove as well. Before we subdivided and built on the other land. And that's all I want to say. Pretty much, that's some of the other services I do. I was a Pujari. I dressed in the evening sometimes and woke the deities. I helped cook for the Sunday feast. And for maybe a year or two, Bali Maharaj and I, maybe for a couple of years after Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj left, we would do all the wood cutting for keeping the temple warm before this temple was built. So that's that we tested white system.
Hare Krishna. As Jagannath said, there's so many memories, and hearing the devotee share brings up so many more memories. It's nice hearing how devotees came to Gita Nagari. I wasn't going to share that. Jagannath touched on it. But I think I want to say that the theme that I hear for us as devotees and just coming to this beautiful Gita Nagari is the great blessing of how our spiritual masters have performed austerity such that somehow we become inspired to perform what we think is an austerity when in fact it's the greatest blessing. And so, as Jagannath said, we would come to visit, and there was a house for sale. And so we saw that house and we said, well, is it a sign? You know, maybe it's a sign. And so it happened such that we decided to purchase it, and we had two houses. We had jobs in Maryland and no jobs here. So there wasn't a practical way for us to purchase a house, but based on seeing the devotees who came before us and sacrificed, we heard Raja Nakavira's story, Achyuta Sadachari Shodamayi, our spiritual master, Lord in the Heart, inspired us. And so at one point, Jagannath was here, I was working in DC, and I would stay with Kunti and Madhava. I worked there on the weekends and come back to Pennsylvania during the week. And Jagannath was working in Baltimore at first. We were able, with the help of my parents and his parents, to be able to somehow juggle both houses. And then we were able to be here. And one of the things I remember, it was an adjustment because I joined a preaching center in Washington, D.C. So in the context of a preaching center, everything happens at that center. There's, like DD service and programs and things like that. So when we moved to here to Nagari, I remember it's a big adjustment. I'm like, wait, I'm a community? Like there's this distinction. You have the pujaris, the temple, and the community members. I'm like, what? So it was kind of like adjusting I'm going to take the liberty to also speak for my god sister, Mother Yashoda. But so many of our pastimes were joined, and she's doing service as always. She's doing a preaching program in Harrisburg, so she's not able to be here. So Yashoda and I lived together in DC before we moved here. And so we came here around the same time. We might have come a couple months later. And so Yashoda and I, very soon after moving here, Devaki was 4, Jana wasn't born yet, Ladini was 5, Mukunda he was 3 or something. So we were inspired, and I think directed by our spiritual master, to work on projects related to children. And so we got inspired to work on developing a school. And so Yashoda and I, and as Mother Sharma had said before us, there were other schools, many things happened before we came, but we came in this era, and our kids needed schooling. So Yashoda and I studied Mother Urmila's curriculum and really tried to learn about, because, we didn't have that background in starting schools. So we studied that, and where there are so many variations, Mother Sharma touched on it. We had co-op where the different mothers work together. I'm trying to think of names for the Shama. It was over the years, Lalita Saki, Shama Goparupa, Mavati, Sudevi, Kishori, Achyuta, Akadashi, so many different moms. Mother Damayanti and moms and dads worked together. So we had a co-op. We had a school at Mother Yashoda's house on her trailer. But we had a school in the temple where the kids would come and have breakfast in the temple. We had cooks. I think Lila Kata was one of the cooks. The kids would have breakfast, right, Prema? You guys would have breakfast in the temple. You would go upstairs, and I think Brown Laherta, room 2, and I think Brahma Hrita taught you guys scriptures. Then would you go over to the trailer and have classes? There were different teachers who taught classes. So we had a school on the farm, on the trailer. We had a school at Mother Damayanti's house. We had a co-op. And then
That school, when Mother Damayanti's was very nice today. The house we had the school, and they built that house. They had a cow there, so we learned about milking, and like she would make things with fresh milk from their cow. They had trees, so we learned how to like tap maple syrup and like the whole process of that. And then like Mother Vienti would make like fresh curd and everything with stuff with the things with maple syrup like fresh from their backyard. Like they had the maple syrup, and I can't remember the name for a cow. Maybe Pam remembers. Rokini, yeah. So I remember that the most at Mother Dimension. It must have been a little older. I remember.
can you share more about maybe remember the different schools? Is there anything I left out about the schools?
Oh,
Yeah.
so I think Prema also would have chimed in if you forgot anything.
Yeah, thank you.
She actually did.
So then I guess at some point, as Achita said, it happened such that I needed to work. And for many of us, that meant working in Harrisburg. And I also worked in York, which was an hour and a half. And so we needed to figure out something with our schooling. So Yashoda and I did like homeschooling at some point. And then we decided to put our children into school in Harrisburg. Impossible is, impossible is a word in the in the Fool's Dictionary. And so we had this carpool of moms here, and the Shoulders kids and my kids went to this really awesome school in Harrisburg that there's not classes. The kids like create their own day, and they would bring their Bhagavad Gita and learn about Krishna. And so the kids did that. They went to school in Harrisburg, and then Yashoda and I had our kids have music lessons in State College, Suzuki music lessons in State College. So we would take our kids to State College on Fridays. On the other days of the week, our kids would be in school in Harrisburg. And in that way, she and I were, oh, then we had dance, the kids had dance classes during the week. So I'm very grateful for Yashoda Mai and the other mothers as a team with how we were able to raise our kids together, and how working together we were able to build upon Srila Prabhupada's, like Chittaraj, many gurus focus on, spiritual community. And we did field trips, music of the heart with the children. Mother Purana taught the children bhajans. So the bhajans that these young people know came from Mother Purana. She taught them bhajans in the temple. And then different services, festival organization, Mother Vajrayana worked with many of us to organize festivals, Achuta, Yashodamaya, different devotees. I have a lot of memories. I used to cook breakfast in the kitchen, and Mukravanya would give class every Saturday. So I remember I would get up at 4:30, come to the temple. Mother Sudevi, I don't know if she was here. She loved upma, so I would make upma. And then Muktavanya would give class every Saturday morning, and I loved it because it was a speaker in the kitchen, and I'd be in the kitchen, and then, Mukta's class was always so practical. So, he would give classes in the morning, and then we'd all have breakfast together. We dressed the gopis in the evening at some time. And then many of us did counseling and workshops, fundraising for some things for Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, Grahas Division team. Jagannath and I briefly lived on the farm. The house that we bought had a toxic mold problem, and we were all sick for years, and we didn't know why. So we lived at Mother Yashoda's briefly, and then through the mercy of Vajrayana Kabira, we lived on the farm, and then that house had a flood, and then we moved around a lot of places. Then where did we go after we moved off the farm? Oh, Mother Teresa, by Mother Teresa's mercy. She and Sadachar gave up their room on the top floor, and then we lived with them. And we were going to go back in our house, and then that got flooded, and then we moved in town, which was very devastating because even living in town seems like you're moving to another country, like town. But we lived in town for 5 years, and then we built the house we have now. So there's so many nice opportunities that Krishna gives you to learn and grow. I think lastly, I want to say, I appreciate what Gita Nagari, we talk about, simple living, high thinking, but for sure it's a process. When we first moved here, this devotee named Gita Nagari, we actually hadn't moved there. We came to visit. And he's a character, Gita Nagari. So he said, we were at his house. He's mother with Mavati's ex-husband. And he said, hey, Chintamani, listen. Jagannath and I were sitting there, like, he's like, hear that? I was like, I don't hear anything. He said, that's right. Nothing. That's what it's like living in here. And it was an adjustment for many of us. I would say it took at least, it takes years to adjust to a very different lifestyle, particularly when you're used to living in the city. And when we talk about these stories about Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj and the ways he engaged us in different ways, and for me, what I have seen as I have grown as a devotee is the importance of seeing Krishna consciousness as a lifestyle. And so there were people who were used to living in, I never thought I would be on a farm. Who were raised in a city and not used to any of this. And then we come here to try to serve, and really we were getting the benefit. I didn't, realize it at that time as much as I do now. And so Bhakti Maharaj's mood is like, okay, how can we, and not just when he came here, always that's his mood, but how can we come together to help all ages understand Krishna consciousness as a lifestyle? And so living in Gitanagari is the most beautiful place for me to raise children, because when the children wanted to do something social, there's not a mall, there's not a, party. The social thing, hey, we want to do something social, let's go to the temple. So their social focus was the temple, but still, this is a very quiet place, it's a very austere place. So he created and trained his disciples, and we benefited from those who already lived here, of how can we all come together to see Krishna consciousness as a lifestyle, as fun, as enlivening, as creative, so that his mood was, so everything you want, you can get in Krishna consciousness. There's nothing that you can't get in Krishna consciousness. If you want to slide down a hill, I'll do it with you. If you want to swim, I'll do it with you. If you want to be in the temple and pray, if you want to grow flowers, Krishna consciousness gives everything. And so I'm grateful that my children and all of our children were able to be raised in a simple place, but be raised in a way that every mother in here is their mother, every father. That's why there's Uncle Brubit, there's Uncle Ajamil, Auntie Koki. So I'm just grateful that I had the opportunity to be able to grow personally from community, to have an environment that supported mode of goodness, and to be able for me to grow and to be able to support my children to be able to grow in such a very special place. Hare Krishna.
Hi Krishna. I'll just share briefly. I think the most meaningful thing that I got in my foundation of Krishna consciousness is comes a lot from Bhakti Maharaj, because since we that was our foundation, being around him, we got such a loving foundation of Krishna consciousness. And I think that for me that when I think back now, just think back on those days, it almost doesn't feel like it was real, because it literally it was such a special time. And I don't I feel like as I'm older, there's things, ways you think of that limit how you might see devotees, but as growing up, there wasn't that, because he didn't have that, wasn't put into the atmosphere at all. It wasn't oh, if you're this, then you can't do this, or there was no limitations. Everything was about growth and growing, and it didn't matter. If you're a kid, if you're adult, if you're junior, there's not even though people have their positions like that, it wasn't really there, because that he didn't put that there. It was everyone is part of the family, everyone can serve, everyone can have fun, and there's a place for everyone. And I think as I've gotten older, I'm just wow, that's really special, because as you get older, you can have ways of thinking oh, well, I only can do this if I'm like this, but having that foundation of just knowing that no matter even whatever body that I'm in, that doesn't limit my devotional service, and that doesn't limit how I'm able to grow and how I'm able to serve. And I think that's one of the best gifts that he gave me, especially being a woman's body, which can feel limiting even in ISKCON. I think that Bhakti Maharaj helped teach us that that doesn't have to be the case. And um, really, based on your own consciousness, you can limit yourself. But you, if you want to make a difference, and if you want to bring about change, then you can do that just on your own and with the support of the devotees. So I think
That's the best gift that he gave me. And I always had so many role models around me of devotees, but also devotees like me, like girls, women, like doing services. So it was never, because I know later it was interesting because when I would go to like youth retreats and like I would hear you sing different things about like how their temples were, and I was just like, that is so different than what I like. Oh, we have kirtan, the girls over here, and like, I was like, what? That's like, it was just really different to hear that because like it was never like that. Like everyone just does kirtan together. Everyone picks up instruments and sings. Like there wasn't like so much focus on like, okay, this is the body you're in, therefore this is how like we're doing things. It was like, no, it wasn't about that. So it was really interesting to realize like, oh yeah, like a lot of people didn't have this experience. Because like if you grow up in something, you're just like, that's all that you know. So you just think like, oh yeah, this is, but then when you talk with other devotees and you're like, wait, this is a very unique experience that others didn't get to have. So I think for me, as I've gotten older and just seeing the blessing of it, I just pray that I can like help others feel that love that he gave us, um, and know that they're valued, whoever they are, because that's so much of what he gave us. Young people growing up, he gave us that, and not just him, but all the devotees that were there. A few devotees that I really miss from Gitanagari that have departed, or maybe they're just not here physically in Gitanagari, but is Mother Jagannath, who was like a grandmother for me, and her and Mother Kartamisha would engage us in doing service for the deities. Like I remember Mother Kartamisha would help organize the Gopi story and like do things in the Vijaya room, like clean in there. And so we got to like be part and do service. Like we were obviously very young and couldn't do some of the other services. And Mother Jagannath always would pull us in to do anything. Like, you want to help me? I'm making this. You want to like always like pulling us in to be able to do things. And even up to like, I don't remember when she left Gita, but I just always remember that she, especially Mother Jagannath, because she was there longer into like even after Mother Kartamisha left Gita, just always like it was such a sweet mood that Mother Jagannath had with Radha Damodar, and she would like pull you into that, like, because I feel like for them they were like her children, and she always found ways to like, oh, you want to come do this? Or like, look, this is something right down there. Like her and Uncle Bali, they both were so much like that. And Mother Queen is another devotee who I really loved and appreciated. And she also would engage us in doing service, like helping milk the cows. And so I think that we always had opportunities to do service. And I agree with my mom. I do think that we saw that as a lifestyle, not like, oh, you're a devotee and you're this, or like, oh, let me get these needs met over here, and then like I have to like go over here to get like, no, it was just like as a devotee, you can have everything met, and you have this big family, this big community that, um, yeah, you can reach out to. Oh, if you wanted to go do this, you can like, if you know one devotee likes doing this, you can go talk to them, and like, oh, maybe a whole bunch can go do this together. I remember me and Paul Conti for years, like, did the Govardhan Puja thing together. Like, we would help organize that and, like, get all the sweets and build it together. And with some of the other girls, like, we got to do so many things. Manashia taught us cooking, and we got to, like, learn, like, dances to do. We did, like, dramas with Mother Shodamai because she was really, like, that's really her thing is dramas, eating. Yeah, we did beading with Mother Kalki. Like, we got to do, like, so many things. So it was never, like, he didn't feel like he would have righted anything because you weren't. There was always like a plethora of things that you could do. I know me and Ladini had did like a jewelry business for a while because we learned beading from other Kalki, and so we made earrings and stuff to sell because they would have the May festival retreats and devotees could like vend, so we would like bring our things to sell. And yeah, and I'm sure there's probably even more things that I'm not remembering, but yeah, I think those are just some of the highlights, and I think some of my favorite memories were at Jana's birthday parties because just seeing Bucky Truth Maharaj in that mood, that like
such a playful mood, especially like the sports. Like I do remember like sometimes him getting splashed, but he was just so happy. Like they're all in the water together. Like I can like play the like kind of like in my mind, just like remembering it kind of like a video. Just like how happy everyone was. It's like you can just be that happy with devotees. Like that we got to have that with devotees, but also with Bhakti Raj. Like I know that those just from having those things, like that will always help me. I'm praying always be able to be a devotee because like I know just from having it from such an exalted soul, just being able to have those experiences, um, I think that will always help me in my Krishna consciousness. So I always just pray that I can keep some of that mood that like to give some of that mood that he had, even in my own little way, because I feel that that's the best gift that you can give others is giving love. Um, and that's what he did through everything. Like that's who he was. He was love. And everyone that was around him got to feel that. And I think that's what people need the most. If you feel loved, then you actually can do anything. But if you don't feel loved, then it's very hard to do things. So I think that that's the best gift that he gave us, and that's the best gift that everyone gives in our community is love, loving each other, regardless of whatever things are going on or whatever things come up. Like we all love each other, and I think that that's what keeps our community strong is that we all love each other. Ultimately, want the best for each other, even if we don't understand why someone is doing something. We all love each other. And that keeps us all together. So thank you everyone for being loving and let's keep spreading the love. Hare Krishna.
Okay, so you've been sitting almost 3 hours, and I know it can get tiring. So I have an idea. So we'll finish with Hari Chakra Prabhu and Mother Yashoda for today, and then we'll continue with the feast program and the evening kirtan. And next week we're going to have Ishta Goshti anyway, which is 22nd of December. So we can finish the last part of the modern era of Gita Nagari, the 2000s onwards, next Sunday. What do you think? Or shall we continue with all the speakers because it can get, another 45 minutes or so? And I think, huh? Continue till we like finish everybody? No? Oh, after the kirtan. That's too late. It's 9 p.m. Before the kirtan. 5 p.m. Okay, you think about it as Hari Chakra will present his 2003 journey here, and then we can vote after that, okay? And decide. Because we have another 4 or 5 people. Hari Chakra, please come. Shall I bring the drum?
Yasuna, what are you doing? Namo Shri Krishna Krishna Buddha Vishnu Matova Tirtha Swami Kitlavami Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Shattatmana Shri Gora Karuna Shakti Bhakti Tirtha Tinamne Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishna Buddha Vishnu Matova Tirtha Swami Namaste Saraswati Devi Guravani Prachara Nirvashna Shastra Yuvati Pashata Hare Krishna.
Thank you for coming. And I want to speak to you so that Ahmad will not hear me. So, you agree, so I can't provoke when I speak to you.
He said, don't speak to you. Only always. Because I got them there.
I think it's, um, when Venu asked me to speak, I was asking him, what do you want me to talk about? If we are talking about the programs of Gita Nagari, we have people who really have been here, who knows the history of Gita Nagari, not me. He kept insisting. I said, okay, I'll come and say something. Actually, when we decided to come here, our Blue Right invited us to come for his Vyasa Puja in 2003. When we went to the American Embassy for the visa, there were 16 of us who were granted visa. It was, I mean, a very big surprise. American Embassy would not give that number of visa at a go. Never. So for us to get that number of visas was like a miracle. So the day came and we came to New York, and they said, oh, there's an arena at the time to come pick you up. So we were in New York. We didn't know what winter was. I mean, back home in Ghana, like if it's 65 degrees, we'll be wearing big coats, big coats, 65 degrees. We came in May, and May, the winter is like going out. And we got to JFK, and some of us were like a little bit curious. We want to see, whilst we were waiting for the devotees to pick us up, we wanted to be nosy a little bit. And when you try to go outside, when the sliding door opens, the wind that meets you, we go right back in. How are we going to be able to walk outside there? It's so cold. We didn't have coats. So it was surprising. Eventually, the devotees came. And we boarded the bus. And New York, JFK, lights everywhere. So we are coming, these lights. Oh, wow, this is America. Yeah. Then as we keep going, then the lights begin to fade. Every now and then some lights will show up a little bit, then it fades off. Then it got to the time we were not seeing no light. Then when we got to Port Royal, we saw some little bit light. Then after Port Royal, no light. So we begin to ask questions, where are we going? So after Port Royal, now we thought we were no more in the US. We were Then we reached the entrance of Eden Agri. Wow, where is this place? The car moves in. We were seeing only wood, nothing else. Where is the light? No light. And they drop us off at the Brahmacharya shop. Now, what is the name of that place? Huh? Cedarwood. It was when I told the Brahmacharya shop. Because I was with my wife, we could not be accommodated at the Brahmacharya shop. So they took us back, me and my wife, they took us back to Yashodamayi's house. That's where we stayed throughout the festival. So later on, Sir David Govinda Prabhu, they were telling me because they were at the Brahmacharya ashram, they wake up in the morning and they say, oh, they want to go to the temple. And so when they came out of the Brahmacharya ashram, they started going the other way because they never thought there could be a building here, this direction. So they started walking that way until they go to the main road and they turn left and they were going. When they got to the Institute Junction, they make a left because they could see some lights there. So the temple is here. So they went, and eventually they ended up at the Institute House. And Guru Maharaj was there. So they went, they knocked at the door, and Guru Maharaj came and said, what are you doing here? They said, we want to go to the temple. So somebody was assigned to them to bring them back to the temple because you cannot imagine from the Brahmacharya ashram when you stand there, it's so dark. No, you not see anything at this place, so you can never imagine there's a temple at this place. So that's how we lived our life. And so when we came, we were introduced by Kivera and Prajalila. They were so loved to us because Prajalila, some of us knew Prajalila back home in Ghana because in 1983, she was like our big boss. She knew everything about. We had just joined the movement. We didn't know much about Krishna consciousness. And she was our guide to everything. So when we saw her here, it's like, oh, a God-sent Messiah. So they took good care of us, and the Kivera was so inspirational that every morning we just want to go out. They took us to the field. They were teaching us. We didn't know how to use the weed whacker because back home we used machetes to do our own thing. Very Bali, such a wonderful person. They taught us how to use the weed whacker. Man, and we were fighting over the weed whacker. So I mean, by the mercy of a Kivera and Bali, we were doing a lot of job with the cows. They would teach us how to fix the fence, and fortunately for us, there were cars everywhere. You can just jump into any car and start driving. Oh. all you need is to get gas. And if you want to get gas, just go see Bali. Bali will show you some corner, you go there is a whole big gallon of gas. You put some in the car and then you are the driver. But the unfortunate thing is you can never drive those cars outside of the farm. So within the farm, we were like enjoying ourselves. So nice. And Mother Kalini, anytime we speak with Mother Kalini, she'll be telling us, oh, very soon there will be winter. We were always, so we want to see snow. How does it look? So the first time the snow show, Mother Kalini was running from her room. Sastanga, Yashoda, come out, snow. And we were all running behind Mother Kalini. Lie down in the snow, we smell. I mean, the first time the snow came, it snowed so much. I think it was like 2 feet. And Ekivera and Bali were out. So our masters are going out. Where will we be? We were behind them. Instead of working, we would go and this person would jump in the snow and lie down. Oh, those past times, I can't forget those days. Those days were so enjoyable. And you feel like you don't see yourself as being, as even working. I mean, the whole thing becomes like, when kids are playing, how you get yourself are so absorbed in play. That is how we felt. We were so absorbed in doing the service. We didn't see it as service. We were seeing it as like, hey, good time. Like you go on vacation to some beach and you are just walking around and doing activities and that is how we felt at the daily services that we were doing around. We felt so good doing those times. Kibera was our inspiration. And Bali, Bali Maharaj. By the mercy of Bali, a lot of us, we knew how to change oils in cars. So many things about cars we knew. But back home, we had to go to the mechanic to get things done. But by the mercy of Bali, there are so many things. Even till today, Sahadev never goes to the mechanic. He changes his own oil in his house by Bali's mercy. So, I mean, hearing everybody speak, what I deduce is that our whole existence as devotees, we should always reflect. We should go to the past, present, and then foresee our future. That without somebody's sacrifice, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be where we are. People sacrificed before. Look at what when Ekibera was explaining about some basic things, even before Ekibera and Rajalila came to this place. Look at the devotees who were here before, the sacrifices they did, the energies they put in it. If they had not done it, we wouldn't be here today. So what on earth should we ever think that we are doing? We are so special that whatever we are doing is because of our energy, our effort, is because of our intelligence. No. Who are you? By Prabhupada's mercy, by Guru Maharaj's mercy, things are happening. And with or without us, it will happen anyway. Other than that, like when Prabhupada left the planet, this movement should have died. But why is it still going on? Because Prabhupada initially showed by his example how to sacrifice. And those who saw him continue with that sacrifice, they risked their lives. Look at Bali, driving a whole car and there's no windshield and the snow is, you can imagine it when you are driving and the snow is hitting your face and it's doing like this. And think about that sacrifice. So what makes you think that you are so big? Without somebody's sacrifice, you cannot be who you are. Your mom sacrificed her life, keep you in his womb for 9 months before he brought you out. Same thing. Wherever society you go in, people sacrifice before you. Then when it is your time, you also try to sacrifice so that people in the future can also enjoy the system. And this is Krishna consciousness. Well, in my own, I don't know, maybe it's about now, correct me. In the spiritual world, I've never heard anything happening in the spiritual world except one thing: relationship. Anytime I hear somebody preach, they say, oh, the 5 races. Krishna associating with these people as mother and father, as conjugal lovers. Apart from that, I don't hear anything. Right? So most of the time, my vision is a place like Gita, Nagari. The Guru, Srila Prabhupada, and the Parampara, they have created this system for us to come here and learn how to live that ras, the spiritual world, how to live the spiritual world here on this planet. So what are we doing to help this Leela to go on? So I appreciate all of you, whatever all of you have said. I was just shedding tears when Ikibera and Magdala were speaking about the prayers Guru Maharaj made, and out of the blue, someone will bring some big, huge donation for this to happen. So we thank you all very much. And I assure you that sometimes the devotees, some of the devotees will tell me, Harichakra, what? Especially Surapur. Surapur, when you listen to Surapur, if you are not careful, you will fall down very quick. Because Surapur is so good in raising your ego. I say, apart from you, nobody else is a devotee. Oh, Prabhu, you are so wonderful. Prabhu, what do you do this? Sometimes he will shower you with so much praise. Then if you are not careful, you begin to think, oh yeah, I'm, I'm such a powerful devotee. So Surapur will always tell me, Prabhu, how do you do that? You are always on the altar every morning. But anytime he says that, there's one thing that comes to my mind. Because when I was here first, Guru Maharaj gave me the instruction that whatever it takes me, I should make sure rather the Mudara service goes on. That was instruction from my Guru Maharaj. And I have vowed to obey that instruction. Number two, the devotees, like during those times, all those times, Bali, Ekivera, and all these things. And now today I look at the Mudara Kata and the rest of the other devotees. When it's dead winter and it's snowing and it's so cold, devotees will be dead at the shed. So, take care of them. So, rest people alone. What is so wonderful? When I could spend just like 1 hour at the altar, it hits what being warmed every day, right? So if I come and I spend 2 hours at the altar, it hits. What is so wonderful about it? When somebody is out there, they cook softly just to keep care, just to take care of the cows.
Arrivo. Kitna gida ki.
Okay, so I have been informed that the feast is ready. At the same time, there was some thoughts that we shall continue, and I don't know. I mean, the 50th will go on. I mean, even next year we're gonna celebrate the 50th. As I heard, the big wave. This is a small wave. There will be a big wave also in the summer. But as I said, I propose we can continue because we have to spread the straw after lunch also for the cows, and then we have the evening kirtan. And you also have to digest and relax and have a little break. So my proposal is we continue next Sunday, just to finish with the last few devotees. But if you really insist and it's the majority, we shall continue right now. So please, for those, let's vote. For those who want to continue now, raise your hand, like despite the feast, and just wait another. Okay. Today later when? You have to give me the exact time. 6 is Gora RT. Huh?
That's what I'm trying to do. So if later today, then what time would suit you all? 5 o'clock? Gora just something. That should be 6. Hmm?
You can do a salad at 6. We can start at 5 if you want to also be start at 5 and then just one more. Yeah. Yeah.
5 to 7? You okay with that? We'll finish 5 to 7. Who is okay with finishing 5 to 7 today? Okay. Seems like a majority. Just in case, who is okay to finish on Sunday? next Sunday? We can continue on Sunday, regardless of what happens. Okay, 5 to 7. Seems it's majority. 5 to 7 we'll continue with Kata. 7 to 8 and 8 to 9 will be 2 wonderful kirtans. Okay? Okay, let's go for feast now. Thank you very much for this first part of this. Okay, this will go on. I don't really want to switch it off. So the streaming will continue, and then we can just join you again at 5 o'clock to continue further. Okay.